In this episode, we're going to cover route selection and general things to think about when you're planning your route for this off-grid scenario. So, one of my main priorities on this grid down scenario is water sources. So where am I going to go and refill my water? So this is an OS map. This has marked down where all of the streams are, all of the rivers, all of the springs, and also there are a few wells on here marked down. With the route I've selected, I'm going to mark down in red where I think the best water sources are. So I will be mainly marking down springs as they are the freshest source of water I can get. Will I take water from the rivers? I will try to avoid those, as along these big main rivers they have sewage plantations where my water filter cannot filter some of the chemicals that are discharged from that sewage waste. So on my route I am going to avoid picking up water from big rivers and mainly looking for those fresh springs. That sometimes can have its difficulties in and around urban environments. One of the main things around urban environments that is hard to source water is sometimes these springs are on private land, and where this is just a practice, we're not going to be breaking any rules or regulations or any laws or bylaws to trespass on people's land to get these sources of water. So we are very limited to our water sources that I can get on this grid down scenario legally. But obviously if it was a grid down situation, then we would be breaking the rules a little bit more and going possibly more of a tactical route to where we need to get to. If we were going to speak about tactical routes, one thing that I would be trying to do is mark down a route through pretty much every tree line I can get through on the lowest points, so I'm not walking up to any ridges or any high points. I want to be down in amongst the valleys, in amongst the tree lines as much as I can, so I can be out of sight and out of mind as much as possible. We can't do that on this challenge because, again, we will be breaking rules of trespass on people's lands. So to keep this well within legality, we will be using a lot of prominent tracks, so less tactical, but still testing the kit and testing myself to see if I can really push the 60 miles in 3 days. So this is where we're going to be starting. So this is the Andover area. We're going to be starting over around here. There's a pretty decent track here, and this track pretty much goes from here all the way down to the other side of this map. So starting from the Andover location, we've got onto this green track here, and the great thing about this byway that I've selected is that it pretty much goes from one end of the map to the other end of the map, which will link us up to the New Forest. So we're going to start here. We're going to take this track all the way down here. Going to continue down, and by the way, along this track I'm going to be marking out the springs and the wells where we can get water. Continuing down this way, and we're basically just going to keep following this byway and the occasional crossing on roads to keep on this nice easy track. And the great thing about this track being so easy is that we can think less on navigation and more on getting the miles in and actually getting to where we need to go to as fast as we possibly can. And just as that track ended on the bottom of that map, it actually now starts at the top of this map, which is now the New Forest map. So we're going to try and make our way to the New Forest. We're going to take this track down and we're going to follow it as far as we can and try to avoid any roads where possible and just try and stick on these green lanes, which when you get to a much sort of more busier urban environment, it becomes a lot harder to keep to these green lanes and byways. So we're going to follow all of these byways down, and there's going to be a bit of a mix and match of green lanes and roads, but basically we're going to get from this track here to this main road, and using these byways and roads and tracks we're going to eventually get into the New Forest, which will roughly be around 30 miles, and then what we're going to do is we're going to stay here, stay in the New Forest, get into night routine. I'm going to talk about light discipline and a few other things that you need to maybe think about when you're camping in a grid down scenario. That is now route selected, and I've also marked down some of the springs and some of the wells along my route. I've marked multiple water sources that are within the vicinity of my route, so I'm not going to say the most easiest options. I'm marking down all of the ones in my area, because when you're seeing it on the map to how you see it on the ground is two totally different things, and sometimes it may be easier to get to one than the other, even though on the map it may look easier. And things like this, maybe routes could be overgrown, fence lines could be pushed back or pushed forwards, so it means that certain water sources may be a little bit harder to get. This is really good because in a grid down scenario you may get a very hostile area and you may need to switch to a different water source that's within a couple of kilometers. Join me on episode 3, where I'll be stepping off on the first day of the 60-mile grid down scenario. I will be trying to achieve 30 miles in the first day, so then on the second and third day I will only have 15 miles each day. Achieving 30 miles in the first day means that I'm going to have to keep the pace up and move very, very quickly. So join me on episode 3, where I step off.